Alright, welcome to the video. In this video I want to talk about the 3 biggest problems I see with Sorare in terms of its kind of long-term sustainability. The reason for this is that if you've watched my last Sorare journey video, I'm really at a crossroads on where to go next. You know, there's this go with the kind of risk-free model where you take out your initial investment and just play with what you have left. And then alternatively, there's put a lot more money in, get more invested, and basically build the biggest, strongest gallery I can based on, Sorare surviving for the long term and it being fruitful for its players. And then when considering that second option, you need to consider all of the factors. So I want to put these out in the open so we can start a discussion and maybe some solutions on how to improve them. The first one I want to talk about is the over-reliance on SO5. Sorare claims to be a kind of collectible game where you can collect the players you like and use them. But anyone that's played the game knows that significantly at this time, everyone's player value is based on how good they are in SO5, which is fantastic in one regard, right? It makes so much more fun for the game. You learn about different leagues that you've never thought you'd even, ever care about before. You have a real connection to the players and they can win you real life prizes and lots of other stuff. But the problem is, the SO5 model relies on more people getting involved in the game to continue paying out to the same degree. This doesn't mean that Sorare can't, cut the reward pool and everything work out fine. One of the best things about Sorare is that they could simply cut the rewards, limit how many cards are given out, cut the ETH thresholds, cut the ETH rest of this. That would be absolutely fine and the game would continue as normal. But the problem would be what the player base would do in that reaction to that event. I think most likely there'd be an incredible amount of panic. A lot of people would leave the game and it could cause this real spiraling downward effect. So what is the answer to this? How do you solve this over-reliance on SO5? Firstly, a secondary market fee. So what this would be Sorare currently cover all of the secondary markets between peer-to-peer transfers on the game. I think that's great for volume. I think that's great for liquidity. But, a very small fee or 1%, it will help them have an extra revenue stream that takes the reliance on SO5. But that's not the whole finished product. What we also need to do, in addition to that fee, you also need to focus on collectibility. There is not enough focus on collectibility, on long term, on holding cards, on showing them off, all of these other aspects. And so we really need to, get that involved as soon as possible. Of course, collectibility comes with long term, right? Let's think of the most expensive sports cards in the world. They were not expensive at the time. It comes with time. But you need to get people invested in that early so that as time grows, these cards were harder and harder to acquire. They become rarer and rarer. One of the biggest problems in collectibility and NFTs is that you own them forever. All you need to do is to remember your wallet, or in this case, remember your login details. So, these cards aren't going to disappear. There's going to be so many of them. And then alternatively, I think, we need to be rewarding people that win these games, that do really well in SO5 with collectible cards so that they don't want to sell them. And if someone wants to get them off them, it's going to be very difficult. And people are going to be, cherishing these cards a lot more than they do now. Whereas at the moment, like I've said, it's very much SO5 based. Okay, well, if someone's going to score higher than the player I've won, I'm going to sell my player and move into that player. There's so many different ways we can do this, but we need to get it introduced as early as possible. Let's get collectibility seriously involved. If you win divisions, you should be rewarded with, they don't even have to be cards, any kind of collectible moments, pictures, graphics, anything interesting that fans would like and be able to show off. The next biggest issue I see is unlimited supply. And I touched on this on my last video as well, but what it is essentially, the best part of Sorare is it has its scarcities. You have limiteds, rares, super rares, uniques. I'm sure a lot of you watching this already know. But that can almost be disregarded when you consider how many leagues and how many teams play football. The problem I've said for Sorare is they haven't drawn the line and said, this is where we're going to stop minting cards. We're only going to take these teams. We're only going to have this, amount of players on the game at one time. Because the problem with that is that every team you add now outside the Premier League, I would say it probably adds a worse effect. If you think about Sorare, it's a very niche market at the moment. It's very crypto based. It's very fantasy football based. It's not for everyone, right? It's for a core dynamic. So if you take a fan group, only maybe 1% might actually be interested in today signing up for Sorare. And at the moment, the teams that I see coming onto Sorare, they're doing more damage than they are good. They're bringing less people in than the people that are, losing the market cap share. So what we need to do is draw the line and say, this is how many teams, or this is how many players, this is how many leagues we're going to get onboarded. Because, you know, at the moment, like I've said, do we add women's football to the league? Do we add second division clubs for across the whole world? Do we add under 21s teams? There's so many cards you can min, and they want to get as many cards as possible. Of course, there are, you know, important aspects to that. But you do need a strong game economy, and you can't do that with unlimited supply. You know, if you take out the bottom tier and they're just valueless, people will lose so much value in that. They'll just think it's a slow toppling effect to the next cards, and people won't want to play the game if they have been burnt, losing value on cards. It's that simple. I think the next biggest problem for me is one I never really considered until recently, but essentially the supply increases each year, but the rewards stay static. So if you think, let's just use seasons. In 2018, you can win 2018 cards. In 2019, you've got 2018 and 2019 cards, but you can only win 2019 cards. And this effect becomes much worse as time goes on, because 5 years later, you'll have 5 years of cards competing for 1 year of rewards. And it's very difficult how we can change this, because that's always been the kind of fundamentals of Sorare. Now we can increase like real life rewards and, you know, collectible rewards and other things that have value but aren't, you know, at a huge cost to Sorare. But for me, the one big massive thing I want to see introduced is some kind of burn mechanism. There can be so many different types of cards on Sorare as the time goes on. If you start to introduce burning cards where you get a better card, or, you know, a collectible card, or some sort of different variation of cards, you know, I think of squad building challenges on FIFA. They absolutely revolutionized it. One of the big things of that, which we might even need to consider, is non-sellable cards. So you can use them, but you can't sell them. You know, that would be great. But you still have to, of course, build this into this fixed scarcity. So you can have more than 1,000 limiteds each year. Those have to absolutely 100% remain intact. So that's where it gets a bit difficult. But I'm thinking you could submit an SO5 lineup and all 5 of those players will get burnt. You'll get one of them back randomly. Maybe that one has an XP bonus, maybe it has a collectible side of it, maybe it has a nice graphic on it, or maybe it has something else that I'm not even thinking of yet. You know, match tickets to, you know, 5 lucky people that completed the challenge, something like that. So essentially, those are the 3 biggest issues I see facing Sorare right now. There's other smaller problems. One I can think of is like with NBA and basketball coming on board, does the football product get less attention? Does money move from the football product to the NBA product? But overall, that's not a massive issue for me because it's Sorare as a company. Because if Sorare survive for the next 10 years, I think everyone that's involved now will do absolutely fine on every type of metric, you know, whether you're talking financially, whether you're talking your happiness, whether you're talking kind of like the communities that you built, or, you know, people that you know. I think that will be fine. So I'm not going to talk about, you know, moving money from soccer to basketball to baseball. That isn't the big problem for me right now. The big problem, as I said, increased supply versus fixed rewards, a potential unlimited supply if we don't draw the line, and an over-reliance on SO5 at the moment. Let me know your thoughts below. Let me know if you've got any solutions. Is there a big problem I've missed out? I don't know. Leave that down below. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe. And yeah, all the best to you. Cheers.